Well, welcome to the West Sports Show. From an Optus obliteration to a Brisbane blitzkrieg, what does the Adelaide Oval hold in store for us? This is the West Sports Show. I am joined by Jackson Barrett, the chief cricket writer for the West Australian. How are you, Jacko?
Quarters. Thanks for having me on. I'm good, mate.
And a bit of news this morning. Let's start from the outside with that.
News this morning.
So Mark Wood for England and Josh Hazlewood, sadly, for Australia. Both of them will take no further part in this Ashes series. What does it mean?
Well, it's massive for both teams, but particularly England. So England have ruled out Mark Wood with that left knee injury. His kind of conditioning was always going to be an issue for them through the series, but they were clearly hopeful.
They got 2 days out of him.
Yeah, correct. They were clearly hopeful that they would get more than that out of him. But I think when you look at England's attack, this is a real blow. So they've come here with this allegedly fearsome attack that we're going to beat Australia at their own game by trying to blast them out with pace. Mark Wood really was central to that. And you look at how the attack's performed so far. They had that excellent end of the first day in Perth. But then other than that, Cast took 4 for in Brisbane, but it was 4 for 158, I think. Atkinson has struggled to get into the series, and then there are serious question marks over Jofra Archer, who fired up against Steve Smith late on the last day, or what proved to be the last day in Brisbane. But other than that, has been pretty hit and miss. He's bowled some average spells, he's bowled some okay spells. So, Mark Wood is that guy with a bit of ticker, I think. He's got guts, he comes out here, he bowls quick all the time, short spells, but repeated spells throughout the day. And he was their real wild card coming into the series. He was one of the guys that you had down among with.
They were going to win. He was going to take a truckload of wickets.
Really, it's Root, Stokes, and then Wood and Archer that were going to have to perform really well for them to win here. Archer hasn't yet performed, and now Wood's done. So that's a real blow for them. Josh Tong waiting on the sidelines, but it doesn't give them heaps of flexibility with their squad either, because, there's Tong and there's Matthew Potts. Tong easily the front runner. But it means that they can't give Atkinson a break or give Cast a break.
And more overs going to fall on Ben Stokes.
Correct,
and that worries me about Ben Stokes.
And potentially Archer as well. They might have to reassess how they use him. So that's a really big blow. Hazlewood is a blow for Australia, but clearly they have the stock underneath him to cover him a little bit better. Australia are getting pretty used to not playing test matches without Josh Hazlewood. It's how
sad.
Yeah, it is. It's how Scott Boland has come into the mix, and we know that you can set your watch to Scott Boland. Michael Neser is banging down the door to play more Test cricket, more red ball Test cricket for the first time.
Hasn't played red ball Test cricket yet.
Never. 3 pink ball Tests, which is actually an incredible stat.
Be a record. That's a record.
Michael Neser, incredibly, was on the 2019 Ashes tour. So this is a guy that has been banging down the door for a long time. And then there's Jai Richardson as well, who is fit again. But beyond that, there's Bartlett. There's not so much for this series, but Bartlett, Johnson, Fergus O'Neill, Lance Morris will be fit again by the start of next summer, you'd think. So there's a lot in the cupboard there, and I wonder what it means for Josh Hazlewood's Test future. The next big Test assignment is the old final frontier, which is India in early 2027. He's played 1 Test in Asia since the middle of 2017, and that was in Rawalpindi against Pakistan. So that is part of that is timing with some of his injuries, but he's also not a bowler that they lean on heavily. Remember, Mitch Starc was the lone frontline paceman in Sri Lanka in February. There's not a really banner series back in Australia for another 3 years until India come back. So he's 34, turns 35 in a couple of weeks.
Of course, we do have South Africa next September.
In September, yeah.
And first Test tour back there since Sandpaper Gate.
Yeah, that'll be a really significant, a sneaky significant tour, and it'll grow in
Jai
significance.
Richardson would have to, if he remains fit, and let's keep our fingers crossed, have to be all over that series.
Yeah, he would do. Jai was targeting the Ashes series when he went in for shoulder surgery, and that didn't quite pan out, but he's very much on the radar. That shoulder surgery was undertaken because selectors said, if you get this done, you will be back in the mix when you come back. So they weren't mucking around when they sent him for that. He is a serious prospect there. Remember, he was even in the squad briefly for India last season. It is a bit of a boost for Jai Richardson. I think Hazlewood probably turns his attention now to white ball cricket, where he's kind of rapidly become our best bowler and a real weapon in T20 cricket. There's a T20 World Cup in February. There's a one-day World Cup the year after that. So I can see him, kind of turning his attention there. Remember, he was easily our best performer in the IPL last year. He took 22 wickets. So, I just wonder how much more of Josh Hazlewood we're going to see at Test level.
And Josh Hazlewood, I don't have the stats, forgive me, in front of me, but his Test record is really bloody good.
Yeah.
If you look at him, say, compared to the great, in my opinion, the greatest player to ever wear the baggy green, that's Dennis Lilly.
Yeah.
It's not far off. So he's been a really good strike bowler for Australia.
Yes.
His body hasn't allowed him to it hasn't allowed him to reach his potential, but I tell you what, it's been pretty impressive what we've seen.
That's the remarkable thing about this trio is that Hazlewood feels like the workhorse guy, feels like the guy that bowls through the middle of the day and bashes away at a length, but he has the record of a strike bowler, and that speaks to what they've been able to do as a group.
Let's get on just a quick wrap of the second test before we get on to the third test. But first, a message from a sponsor. For over a century, Jackson, Sydney Kidman stood for cattle, courage and country, a man who built his life on the strength of the land and the people who worked it. Today, Kidman carries that legacy forward with boots and clothing designed for resilience and authenticity. Each Kidman piece reflects the rugged elegance of the Australian landscape. Sounds a bit like you, Jacko. Made to be lived in. Our boots are crafted from premium cow yearling leather. That doesn't sound like you. With Goodyear welt construction and a trampoline core insole, which is exclusive to the Kidman brand for all-day comfort and endurance. The boots are instantly comfortable with no break-in period needed. It's just a better boot. Explore the collection today at kidman.com. Now, second test. How surprised were you? And I'm putting my hand up. I was shocked that Nathan Lyon did not play in that test.
It's not the way I would have gone, but I'm not. I understand why they did it. So I think the theory. Well, I know that the theory they've been open about this was that it gets darker quicker in Brisbane than it does in Adelaide, which I think punters would have noticed that you kind of get a session and a half at night, whereas Adelaide you get that long, sustained, beautiful sunset in the evening. And clearly they wanted to maximise the ability to keep rolling through seamers under lights. And then there's the issue of like spinners gripping the ball and the ball getting purchased on the surface once the dew sets in as well and in the tropical conditions. So I think that's part of it. The risk was that England were going to extend the game a little bit more than they ended up doing. But I reckon when they were 2 for 100 and
we wanted him.
I reckon they probably wanted Nathan Lyon. Like I think Australia were probably counting on having England 4 or 5 down at lunch on the first day or at the first break on the first day when they made those plans. Lyon clearly filthy. I don't have a problem with him telling people that he's filthy. I think that's great.
Shows you Magic cares about playing for Australia.
Exactly. George Bailey, all but guaranteed that he'll play in Adelaide, which will definitely be the right call. He will absolutely play in Adelaide. They will need him there.
Oh, he's playing. He, in my opinion, plays in every test match for Australia when he's available because he is the greatest off-spinner we have ever produced. So he plays in every test. Was there a little bit of George Bailey and the selectors saying, you reckon we can't make a hard call? Watch us make a hard call. Is there a bit of that or am I just getting a bit excited here?
I think so. I mean, the man, I think maybe a little bit. I think the hard calls that they need to make are actually ending guys' careers. I mean, they've told Lyon that he's not playing, but they've publicly guaranteed him the next test. They obviously dropped him for the pink ball test in the West Indies as well. So they've done it before. They clearly don't rate what he offers. So 2
of the last 4 tests he's been dropped?
2 of the last 3, I think.
Last 3, okay.
There was some interesting commentary around they're playing a dangerous game with Nathan Lyon's ego, and he is clearly a guy that wants to be playing every test for Australia. And are you going to upset someone like that? But I'm generally a fan of a horses for courses approach. It's probably not the call I would have made, but I appreciate that they're pulling together the 11 guys that are most likely to win each test match. And I've always that's kind of been the approach that I've wanted to see. Look, I didn't mind it. Clearly, Nisa came in and was really effective in the second innings.
Specialist 5
It looked a little shaky in the first innings. I mean, he wasn't brilliant there, and they lacked some support for Stark, but he was really good in the second. So I think the selectors will count it as a win, all in all.
Mitch Stark, man of the series already.
Mate, incredible.
What an incredible performance given all the responsibility on his shoulders.
Yeah.
No Cummins, no Hazlewood. Mitch Stark step up to the plate and delivers.
16 wickets in the first 3 innings of an Ashes series. I mean, there are guys that have career highs of about 20 wickets in Ashes series, and some of them are bloody good players. And he could be on his way to a monstrous Ashes haul over the next couple of weeks. Clearly, Cummins comes back, so there's that extra strike bowler. But, I mean, that first spell on the first day was exceptional. Again, Ollie Pope played a pretty dicey shot, but he's just asking questions every single ball, which, I mean, he's done for years and years. And there's been some great commentary around the passing of the Wasim Akram record. He levelled it with that wicket of Pope inside the first couple of overs on the first day, and I think he's completely worthy of being that. I think
Mitch
top of the tree for left arm
and Wasim Akram are both in very good company.
Yes.
That's the best way to explain it, I reckon.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I wrote last week, I think Stark is really probably the only fast bowler, high-class fast bowler, that has had an average that's just slowly come down after the age of 30. Like even guys like Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, who played, I mean, Anderson into his 40s, Broad well into his 30s, Akram as well, Chaminda Vaas, one of the other left-armers at the top of the tree. Great name, Chaminda Vaas.
Yeah. He's got about 12 middle names.
He does have a lot of names. Yeah. Great crick info search, Chaminda Vaas. They all had averages that kind of fluctuated after 30, but Stark has come down, and he's taken... he took his career best figures in the last test in the West Indies and then beat them in Perth, and then took another 6 for in Brisbane. So he's on a heater.
It was a good combination. I think Australia, full stop. The opening partnership worked. I know we had this argument a couple of weeks ago. I'm still ahead at number 5 guy, by the way. But you've got to say it worked in this test. Weatherall, very impressed with him. I did want to say it's not just pommy bashing. That was one of the great test knocks from Joe Root, and I'm really pleased that he's got the 100 in Australia because I feel like he's one of the greats, and it needed to be franked, and there's no harder place to make him than here, particularly when you're under pressure.
Yep, precisely. I mean, there's been some people say, it doesn't mean anything until it's in a match-winning game, but I think he had little support.
He's even more, I reckon.
Yeah, he played an excellent knock, and it probably wasn't the prettiest Joe Root innings of all time.
Didn't have to be.
Accessed all parts of the ground. We said it in our play ratings on YouTube. Just seemed to have so much time all the time, which I think is a hallmark of him at his very best. So yeah, it was special. I mean, it was fun, right? It was a fun thing to ramp up on the way into the series. But Joe Root is a champion Test cricketer, and I feel like we can lean into that as Aussies now a little bit more that we've seen it here.
I feel like nothing encapsulated this last test, and probably the first two, more than Alex Carey v Jamie Smith.
Yeah.
I think it pretty much sums up the way the two teams are going. That was one of the greatest wicket-keeping performances I've ever seen from Alex Carey. Jamie Smith pretty much sums up where England's at the moment. Now, immensely talented cricketer. Everyone who's coached him or played with him says, keep your eye on this kid. He is going to be something special. No doubt he is, but he's had a horror so far, and that was a horror fielding performance. We talk about Bazball and their inability to switch modes, which is just really hurting them. But for me, it starts with the fielding.
Yeah.
And it was abysmal.
Kerry was remarkable, and people talk about wicket keepers are like umpires and drummers in that they're best when you don't notice them and things just kind of happen around them. But that was like everyone at the gig had stopped to watch the drummer. Like this guy, he was keeping up. He was taking bounces up here.
And keeping
he was
up,
all over the place.
restricting their ability to change the length of the Australian bowlers. So really crucial stuff.
A whole series of Michael Neser and Scott Boland wickets can be put down to Alex Carey keeping up for hours and hours on end. So that was very impressive. The fielding thing, I think, and I like the back page of the West today, this idea that Brendan McCullum thinks they were over-prepared and they trained too much. Catching is training. Like catching is like volume.
Catches win matches, Jacko. We were told that as kids.
They were just nowhere near it. And Australia had 4 fast bowlers and 2 wicket keepers on the field, and they fielded the pants off England. They were woeful.
And the length and the line from the England bowlers, 2% or something like that on the stump. So that top of the off or the fourth stump, everyone talks about, which is where you've got to bowl.
Yeah.
Disciplined Test cricket bowling is in that region. And they just didn't hit their length or line enough.
Yeah, particularly, I mean, they're pretty wedded to this short ball tactic, particularly in the second innings, the Archer to Smith stuff. I just thought they got carried away. Bowling's a serious issue, which, as we said off the top, doesn't get any easier without Mark Wood.
I haven't seen Steve Smith fired up like that for a long time.
He was angry, wasn't he?
He's really angry.
He's a funny man.
I liked it.
He was a funny man to watch. We were saying in the office, like, it looked when he took those catches and went on those wild celebrations, it looks like he's seen people celebrate wickets before and was like trying it for the first time. He was like, hyperactive. He was all over the place,
Yep.
and then it clearly translated with the bat. And lots been made of that clash with Jofra Archer. But I think that's one that Steve Smith finds quite personal. Remember in 2019 when Archer hit him, broke his arm, and then concussed him. There were suggestions.
Still hasn't got him out, though.
Still hasn't got him out. There were suggestions that he'd beaten him on the day, and Smith stood firm and said, well, he didn't get me out. So I think that battle is one that Steve Smith has like really dialed in on, and I think it's fair to say probably got the points.
I did, and something I'll carry around for a while. But the day before the first test here in Perth, I was in the bowels of Optus Stadium, just outside the nets.
Yeah.
And 20 minutes before anyone came out for the Australian net, Steve Smith had already padded up. He had the whole kit and caboodle on.
Yeah.
He was walking out to have a pre-net net,
Yeah.
right, with the wanger. I think Mike Hussey was throwing to him.
Yeah.
And we passed, and he doesn't know who I am, but we passed and caught each other's eye, and I just looked at him and said, hit him well, good luck. And I've never seen a more intense face in my life than him going out for a pre-net net.
Yeah.
So that just tells you how driven this guy is and how meticulous he is in his planning. Yeah,
he's a workhorse. And I mean, the other aspect of that is these black face stickers, like whether you...
How do you put them on wrong? Chanderpool.
It says they're on backwards. Isn't it just the colour that matters? I did laugh at that.
Did you work it out?
No, I haven't worked it out yet. But I think it just speaks to like whether you think there's science behind it or not, he's willing to do whatever to feel comfortable out there and feel like he's in the best place to perform.
First time they played night football in the 70s, they were wearing those black stripes under the eyes, and they wore them for about 2 or 3 years. Then they just stopped wearing them. So I guess it's from the bounce of the lights off the cheekbones. It's something along those lines.
Well, obviously NFL catchers wear them,
of course,
wear them all the time, and baseballers as well. So, I mean, clearly someone has told someone down the line that they work, and Shiv Chanderpool wore them all the time, famously. He did some funky stuff through his career. He used to bat with his backside towards the bowler and all sorts of stuff. Yep. But hey, if they work, fair play. Loved
a bit of Shivnarine Chanderpool. So let's talk about the third test, Adelaide Oval. Expecting it's a day test, so traditionally a bit of a flatter track, Adelaide Oval. So it should go 4 or 5 days, 4 days at least. But the question is, how is England going to bowl Australia out now? Let's talk about the Australian side. So Pat Cummins is in.
Yep.
Nathan Lyon is in. Who comes out? So Doggett, is it Nisa, who bit stiff after 5 wickets?
Yeah.
Is Cam Green in any trouble? Now, 40-odd, didn't take a wicket. Dreadful shot to go out.
Yeah.
Dreadful shot, but probably doesn't. So what do you think?
I haven't heard that floated before, Quarters. Yeah. That's you're ahead of the game on that one. I think it's... I mean, the two obvious ones in the gun are Nisa, given that we've never used him in a red ball
in the
test
gun, and
before.
he's just played and he's taken
fiver.
Yeah.
And Doggett. I mean, Doggett was pretty impressive in Perth.
But he has to go. Someone has to go for
middling
Cummins.
Performance, but he was in the side as cover, and he will go for Cummins. There has been some suggestion that they could rest Boland, but Andrew McDonald kind of shut that down and said, we'll look at workloads in the fourth and fifth
fresh
test.
For the MCG.
Yeah, true.
Boxing Day.
I think that is the school of thought. That's an exciting prospect, but I think they're a little bit foot on the throat at the moment, given where they've got England. So I think that's probably the attack. It'll be Stark, Cummins, Boland, Lyon is, I think, the way that they'll go. And then the batting is interesting.
Yeah.
So, Khawaja, I think we knew once he wasn't pulled out of the squad with this back injury that they were going to try and find a way to keep him around. McDonald basically says that he's gone back to this. We pick the best 6 batters and we make an order out of them, and has suggested that Khawaja could come back in the middle order. He hasn't batted in the middle order except for Queensland for quite a while. He spent some time batting 4 at Queensland, I think even while he was opening the batting for Australia. It doesn't work for me. Labuschagne
so
is
Inglis
set.
would come out, clearly.
Inglis would come out, yeah. Labuschagne is set. Smith is set. I think Inglis should have batted at 5 and played that, what we'd think is a Travis Head, take the game on role, because I don't think Green is anywhere near as comfortable doing that. So I would have had Inglis 5, Green 6, Kerry 7. They're batting Inglis at 7. If they shuffled Cam Green again, that would be the 5th time they've moved him in 2 years.
To be fair to Cam Green, he has been shuffled around a lot.
So he's batted at 6 for a long time, and then 4 when Steve Smith went to open, then 3 in the World Test Championship final, and then 6 again, and then 5. So he's batted in 4 different spots in the last 2 years. before and immediately after his back injury. So I don't think you can shuffle him again. I think if they've told him that he's a number 5, I would like to see him stick there. And then Khawaja's certainly not a number 7. So I think you probably have to stick with it. I mean, what they do with Khawaja, maybe if the series is won, is there an opportunity for him to play in Sydney? I mean, I don't like the idea of baggy greens being given out for farewell laps, but it's clear the fact that they've kept him in the squad that they still feel like he is in and around the best 6 or maybe 7 batters in the country. So I'm intrigued by that, but I think Josh Inglis would be very stiff. I mean, he didn't look great, but he got a good one from Ben Stokes at about 20 and fielded like a rabbit in there and looked great. So I think he'd be stiff.
Cricket tipping is back with the game, and there's $26,000 in cash to be won this season. Each week, the top tipper wins $1,000, and the season's top tipper wins $20,000 thanks to McDonald's. Rally your mates and start your own competition. It's fast, free, and easy to play. You can even tip against cricket legend Justin Langer. Follow the link in the episode description or go to thegame.com.au to sign up today. Jacko, you mentioned you want to keep the foot on the throat.
Yeah.
And I want a competitive series, but if we go 3-0 up and win, we all want the whitewash.
Yeah.
Which for me means, do you gamble with Khawaja? Do you just pick your best 11 at the moment? And is he in the best 11? I'm not sure.
I don't think he is, but I didn't think he was at the start of the series.
No.
So clearly the selectors are at a different place on that. I think he's battling against genuine pace bowling, and that's really England's MO this series, isn't it? Clearly down a notch without Wood now, but I mean, Atkinson, Archer, Cast, Tong if he comes in,
Bashir?
even Potts if he comes in.
Any chance of Bashir?
Well,
hasn't bowled well in the other games.
He hasn't, and now there's not much more cricket to be played because the Lions are on their way home. Yeah. So, I mean, one theory that's been thrown around is that
Jack's not opening. Surely that's been theorised.
It has been floated. I don't know. I think they probably drop Ollie Pope if they're to make a change in their batting order.
So Bethel comes in.
Or
hasn't been making runs though.
Well, there's Bethel, or there is Jacks could come into the top 7, pick him as a batter, and that is probably how I think you'd get.
I reckon they're
Bashir
sticking
in.
with Pope. I reckon for the 3rd test.
Okay,
and then if it's done, in he comes.
I think that selection thing kind of falls under this umbrella of
Bazball,
like Bazball, but I mean, I think McCullum's job is on the line, right? Like this this whole regime was centered on this Ashes series, and if they go 3-0 down and they lose 4 or 5 tests in the series, I think it probably has to be in the gun there, right? And people do funny things when their job's under pressure. I wonder if they do twist a little bit on their method, particularly at Adelaide. Like,
here's an idea. It's Test cricket, for goodness sake.
I mean, that 2-hour period of Stokes and Jacks was the best they've looked with the bat for forever. Well, they didn't do enough.
Well, it worked, didn't it, for a while?
Yeah.
So stick with it.
Yeah. I wonder if that'll give them a glimpse of kind of what could have been a little bit, and we might see more that style. Or alternatively, he might go, we're on a pretty good track here. The Adelaide deck does feel like a Bazball track, and they might just turn it up and put it into 6th gear and see how they go.
Well, let's have a more competitive outing, eh? We would all enjoy that.
Nice,
Jackson, Barrett, thank you for your time.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
And remember, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube Music.